9 on Your Side is bringing you a 360 approach to today's landmark decision on Roe v. Wade, overturned by the United States Supreme Court. A look tonight at the decision, the impact, and the ripple effects.
I think it's a black and white issue. Abortion is always wrong in all cases.
It always should be the choice of the woman, and it should be a decision made between the woman and her family and her doctor.
We're seeing mixed reaction across Tucson tonight. People are making their voices heard earlier today outside the clinic.
Court has done what it has never done before, expressly take away a constitutional right that is so fundamental to so many Americans.
We'll break down what Roe v. Wade means for our country, and we'll hear from President Biden, who doesn't support the decision, and other leaders who did. After nearly 50 years of women having the right to an abortion nationwide, that right is no longer. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Danelle Confair. In a 6-3 dissenting vote, the 9 U.S. Supreme Court justices have overturned Roe v. Wade. The High Court's decision to strike down the constitutional right to abortion leaves the decision up to individual states. 26 states, like Arizona, are set to severely restrict or outlaw abortion, while Democrat-led states across the country are expanding their access to abortion rights. While conservative leaders nationwide were celebrating the conservative court's decision, President Biden is calling it out of step from the views of most Americans.
Now, with Roe gone, let's be very clear. The health and life of women in this nation are now at risk.
Americans celebrate this historic victory because we know it will save the lives of millions of children.
The vote solidifies the draft of Justice Alito's opinion that was leaked last month. Today's ruling is centered on a case out of Mississippi where their state law bars most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy, a standard that violated Roe v. Wade. The state's only abortion clinic sued Mississippi over the law. Mississippi Health Director Dr. Thomas Dobbs was named in the suit but wasn't personally involved in the case. Today's ruling on Dobbs actually overturns 2 federal abortion laws, Roe's rights to privacy and Casey versus Planned Parenthood, that protected abortion until fetal viability at 24 weeks. So let's break down how the conservative court voted on this historic case. Justice Samuel Alito wrote the majority opinion with the support of Justices Neil Gorsuch, Clarence Thomas, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, the newest member of the Supreme Court. 3 justices voted to uphold Roe v. Wade: Justices Stephen Breyer, Sonia Sotomayor, and Elena Kagan. Protests erupted across the country after the decision was final. Here's a live look at the protests in the nation's capital that we'll bring you in just a little bit. People were standing against the court's decision while others celebrated. Now, meanwhile, here in Tucson, we have team coverage tonight of our community reacting. 9 on Your Side's Craig Smith joins us live with more. Craig.
Well, abortion opponents say they gather at Planned Parenthood here every Friday to try to discourage abortions. But today, in light of that Supreme Court decision, they had an extra reason to turn out. Tucson's Planned Parenthood clinic has been a potent gathering point for both sides of the abortion debate. After years of working to end abortions, Bob Pawson is celebrating a victory at the federal level. But he knows that decision makes abortion an issue for each state legislature to decide. And he wants all states to make abortion illegal. Both abortion opponents and Planned Parenthood know they face political battles ahead.
Even though the battle has now devolved back to the state level, the goal is literally a constitutional amendment, if it's needed, to stop all the abortions and restore the rights of the babies to life.
We truly believe that change is possible through the electoral process, and that this decision is really awakening a sleeping giant, the giant of people who are Planned Parenthood supporters and who support the fundamental right to abortion and to bodily autonomy.
Planned Parenthood says it stopped abortions as soon as it learned of the Supreme Court ruling and canceled all abortions set for today. It will give women information on how to find abortions in states where it is legal. Now, Planned Parenthood says it has a separate organization, a separate but affiliated organization that handles issues of political support for candidates who do support and align with them on the issue of abortion. And they say that organization is getting ready to become more active than ever. Reporting live, Craig Smith, KGUN 9 on your side.
Greg, thank you. We'll be keeping an eye on protests across the city tonight and this weekend. Arizona is among a handful of states that had an abortion ban on the books before Roe v. Wade. That law will go back into effect now. The old Arizona law will ban all abortions unless it is needed to save the mother's life. It doesn't have an exception for rape or incest. If that's enforced, it would send the doctors who perform an abortion to prison for 2 to 5 years. Pima County and the city of Tucson are still unsure how Arizona's abortion law will be implemented locally. 9 on your side's Perla Shaheen joins us live in the newsroom with more on how that could happen. Perla.
Well, Danelle, I spoke with city and county officials to see how they'll move forward with these upcoming changes in abortion law. And from what they say, things will look different locally from the rest of the state. Sheriff Chris Nanos says that he doesn't have enough men to make arrests at abortion clinics. He says he doesn't see abortion arrests being a high priority.
I have a community to serve, to protect, to keep safe. There are much greater public safety issues out there than those in abortion clinics.
The city of Tucson has already instructed the police department on how to respond to abortion complaints. The city attorney says once a complaint is filed, it'll go through a lengthy investigation process. It would have to be validated by the State Department of Health, the county attorney, and then a grand jury. Now, Tucsonans could still be indicted for performing an abortion after 15 weeks, but Danelle, officers won't make a physical arrest at Tucson abortion clinics. Perla Shaheen, KGUN 9 on your side.
Perla, thank you. So what happens across the country now that Roe is overturned? The map we're looking at here shows states where abortion laws will trigger. In orange, Oklahoma, Arkansas, North Dakota, South Dakota, Utah, and Wyoming have laws that will now go into effect. The states in purple have pre-Roe laws that will go into effect. Arizona is among them. To recap, today's monumental decision, a Mississippi case that was sent to the Supreme Court, led to overturning Roe v. Wade. Now, abortion rights are left up to individual states. Here in Arizona, we already had an abortion ban on the books, and the only exception is when the mother's life is in danger. For some women who were alive before Roe v. Wade, they saw the transformation of a society around bodily autonomy. For younger women, abortion rights has been a constant. For several weeks, I searched for 6 women from all stages of life to get their feelings on abortion and how Roe v. Wade impacted them. Their interviews with me show the wide range of thoughts and emotions when it comes to abortion and women's rights.
Back in 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court made a landmark decision on Roe v. Wade, ruling the Constitution of the United States protects a pregnant woman's liberty to choose an abortion. 68-year-old Bonnie Heidler is for abortion rights. She was only 19 years old when Roe v. Wade was decided.
Women were protesting, burning bras, and moving towards Roe v. Wade.
Because perhaps more than any other issue in American life today, the abortion question is loaded with the emotional arguments of life, death, and morality.
On the other side of the abortion debate is 68-year-old Melody Myrand. She says her religious upbringing helped form her stance.
I think people were more outspoken then. Once it became legal, I began to see more stories about it, people talking about it. People were still unhappy that it had passed, didn't think it would last, but it did.
Before abortions were legalized, some women who had unwanted pregnancies turned to back alley abortions, a choice costing some their lives.
When my mom was 11 months old, my grandmother got pregnant again. She already had 2 little kids plus my mom. And she decided to have an abortion for whatever reasons. My grandfather could afford it, but it was a back alley abortion. And she died. And leaving my mom, who was just 11 months old.
After Roe v. Wade, the stigma around abortion began to change in some circles.
When I went for a pregnancy test, they offered to give me an adjustment. They didn't even use the word abortion, and it was so horrible.
For younger women like 27-year-old Miranda Lopez, abortion has been a woman's right since she was born.
It just wasn't a topic of discussion, and until 2016, it seemed to be something that was guaranteed, and I wouldn't have to think about it.
So what prompts someone's opinion on abortion? While some religions support a woman's right to choose, others are anti-abortion. Religion aside, some women just say it's all about women's rights. 24-year-old Sienna Sholin says she was raised in a faith that is against abortion.
For me, it's definitely been my upbringing, right? My faith. I think those are just like really the things that have, pinpointed it, really, made me strong in this opinion.
Abortion rights, a black and white issue for some of the women I spoke with. 29-year-old Amanda Bruno, who comes from a religious family, says she was once against abortions.
I did grow up in a pretty conservative, right-leaning home. My whole hometown really was like that. And so actually I remember in high school I did a presentation in my political science class about the Right to Life PAC. And I think about that now and it's wild. It's so far removed from where I currently stand on that issue.
For 30-year-old Jessica Lieneman, who's pregnant, she believes an unborn child should have the same rights as anyone.
I just always believed that, and as I grew up, it just became more apparent and more clear to me that what they taught me was right and correct. Even scientifically, at fertilization, that person has its own DNA.
In talking with all 6 women on abortion, I heard many different testimonies on their experiences growing up, but one thing they all seem to have in common is they all wanted to help protect women in our society.